Hi, I'm Liao, and I run developer evangelism here at DocuSign. Today, I'm in our San Francisco headquarters with Pooja Brown, who is Senior Director of Web and Mobile Engineering. Did I get that right? Yeah, I think so. Thanks for joining us, Pooja.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start by could you tell me how long you've been at DocuSign and what you work on here?
So I've been here for 5 years now, and my team and I, our job, we basically fight paper.
Oh, good fight.
Yeah, it's a hard fight too. What my teams work on today is essentially figuring out inefficient paper-based workflows that our customers, consumers have today, and finding ways to bring those online.
Let's jump right in and talk about that. I assume that in the course of your 5 years here, you've gotten to work on some really interesting customer challenges. Do you have any maybe like ones that stand out, like favorites, or perhaps even like a recent one that you can share with us?
Oh, I have a lot of, I don't know if I'd call them favorites, but they're interesting use cases. My sort of most recent one is the one that involves no internet. Imagine a world without internet, right? And you're looking at big customers who essentially sell products to folks which have not a lot of internet connectivity available, right? And then how do you take a very paper-based manual problem where you have a sales agent essentially driving to a remote location with a bunch of stack of paper that they have somebody sign, right, physically sign and do that transaction completely on a paper. And then the customer goes out and FedExes or faxes this paperwork back to the main office.
We should bring back carrier pigeons for that.
No kidding, right? So imagine all of the inefficiency and the cost in a workflow like that, right? So one of the problems my teams is focused on solving is how do you take that workflow and understand the offline nuances that come along with it and still be able to create a artifact that is actually a e-signature compliant artifact.
Very cool. So that's a pretty technical challenge. I guess we now call that offline signing, right? Which is a very cool thing. I imagine that not every challenge you come across is going to be technical in nature. It isn't going to require that we build something completely new. Do you have some examples, perhaps, of ones that are equally pressing but not necessarily like technical, where you have to build something completely new?
Maybe not build something completely new from scratch, but sort of, some new features we had to add. So I'll give you an example. We're working with a university that uses our product and loves our product and features, and we have a whole user experience interaction design department that focuses on sort of what is the best experience with when you enter the DocuSign world, right? There's a feeling of security and trust that you want to resonate when you're working with any of our experiences. And we picked some colors, the blue and gold, to resonate with that.
Sure, everyone knows our colors, right?
And it's interesting that this specific customer actually loves everything about our product but the colors, because they're rival colors to another university, right? And,
I guess that would do it.
And when you think of it, I get it, and I also empathize with them, right? It's that they want to make this product their own. They're using our experience and putting it right in the middle of their internal workflow. So whatever that means to them, if that's the color is important to them, we can solve that. We can use technology to solve that, right? We build branding, and you can have the colors that make sense to your company resonate on top of our product.
And these are just two stories and two customers from many. How many customers do we have nowadays?
About 310,000 customers.
Okay, so...
Oh, wait, and not to mention our 100 million user base.
100 million user base. Wow, that's pretty impressive. So for our 300,000 customers-ish, our customers have a number of different ways to use DocuSign. They have our new DocuSign experience on the website. We have native apps on iOS and Android. Since you work on web and mobile engineering, can you tell us a bit about how your team ensures that customers get the same consistent and sort of performant and really good experience across these different platforms?
Sure. So the technology stacks we picked to solve these problems are right suited for how you're experiencing the product. Like, for example, if you're using DocuSign on the web, then we're going to pick JavaScript-based technologies, whether it's Node and Angular and it's React speaking its way into it. Whether it's on the native apps, we use Objective-C. We're finding ways to use Swift now. We're using APKs in the Android ecosystem, right? So essentially, think of it as that right technology stack that makes the experience of the customer delightful, right? But we also try to keep our clients very minimal, right? There's not a lot of business logic in the clients. We push down the business logic a lot on the API teams or the API layer of our platform. And part of it is that we want, there's customers who actually want to build experiences just for themselves, that work for their nuances, for their setup, right? So our goal was, this is one imagination of how we think our product can be used, but our customers have vivid imaginations and different use cases, and we want them to actually leverage our APIs, and their teams at DocuSign that are focused on that today, interestingly, drive almost 60% of our transactions.
Wow, 60%. I think that's a talking point that I use all the time, which is that actually a lot of our transactions are driven by the API, so thanks for that mention. Our customers obviously also span across a bunch of different verticals. There are a lot of different sizes. So calling on like a couple previous lives from me, we obviously have customers that are maybe like a 5-person startup here in Silicon Valley versus a 50,000 person enterprise. So my 5-person startup might want to be on the bleeding edge of like the feature set all the time, whereas coming from a background in enterprise consulting, like large companies are maybe a little bit more risk averse, maybe a little bit more resistant to change. How do we ensure that we get to keep sort of building out these cool features for customers that want these features without being disruptive to like our bigger customers?
Wait, customers don't like change.
No, I just made that
What
up.
a surprise. What a total surprise. No, I mean, that's an interesting point. You know, as engineers, our job is to make things automated and faster, right? So all of the teams at DocuSign today focus on essentially making the pipeline efficient. When I say pipeline, you're talking your sort of typical CI, continuous integration, continuous deployment pipeline, which the basic job there is from the point that a feature is ready or for the point a pull request is issued, what is the process of taking that pull request all the way to production, right? So our goal is to make sure that the features are in the hands of the customer as soon as possible and as safely as possible. So there's a lot of regression test pipelines that happen through that, right? Now, that's great from an engineering point of view, but that services your small startup who sort of like has got the, like, give me the best and give it to me quick and give me the bleeding edge technology, right?
Sure.
But then you also have these giant customers who have invested a lot in us and who don't like surprises and don't like change, right? And what they're looking, a big change of a user experience means updates to their documentation, retraining their workforce. And for that, we've actually built out a whole entire tooling system that lets you do toggles and feature flags that, depending on where your risk tolerance is, right, you can opt in to be in the slow lane or fast lane, right? So we've used technology to solve that, but we still want to be able to ship code fast and deliver stuff to our customers.
So I said this before, and I'm going to say it again. It sounds like you get to work on some really cool things here. I think as engineers, that's what we look for, right? We look for tough problems to solve in a place where we get to solve them that we like. Would you say that the problems are what you love most about working at DocuSign? Is that what gets you excited to wake up and come here every day?
So, I mean, my favorite thing about DocuSign is you take these very complex, like I call them alphabet soup, DSIGs and SSL and TLS and, all the things that we as engineers take for granted, like in the protocols that sort of power the internet and commerce and identity. And we take all the hard stuff and we bring it to you, bring it to your most sort of aha moments in your life, whether you got your job offer or you signed your first house lease, or you're all the way down to you signed your first permission slip for your kids to go take a field trip, right? I mean, that's what gets me excited about DocuSign, is that you take all that hard stuff and you use technology to solve it for your day-to-day work life, right, or private life or whatever, right? The other part that, when you said what gets me excited is sort of the culture of the company, right? What I love is I love the people and I like the inclusivity. The culture is a very inclusive culture.
So let's deep dive on that one a little bit. Diversity and inclusiveness in tech, especially in Silicon Valley, is kind of like a really big topic these days. Can you tell me about your experience here at DocuSign as a woman in technology? How's it been?
So, I read Lean In, and I read the blogs and I read about what's happening outside. And I actually didn't I didn't do much about it, right, until I actually became a mother of a daughter, right? I have a 3-year-old daughter today. And what's interesting to me is that I want to make sure that the choices she makes are actually gender neutral, right? There should be no organizational, social, cultural biases in the decisions she's making. They did a career assessment test at 3-year-old daycare, don't ask me.
Wow, they're starting young now.
They're starting the young now, no kidding. And she came up with, I want to be a bus driver. And I'm like, that's her choice. That's an interesting choice. That's fine. But I want to make sure that I want to make sure that the choices that she continues to make are not influenced by any other bias.
Sure.
You know, the amazing thing about, for me personally at DocuSign has been that, you know, I work for Robin Ducat, who's the Senior VP of Engineering here, and her commitment to inclusion and diversity has really made it a non-issue for me. Like, I've never felt at DocuSign that the fact that I was a woman in tech or I was a minority, that would limit my potential here, right? It's always been that you work hard, you solve hard problems for our customers, and, you know, that's why we're here, and that's all that matters.
Thank you so much for your time, Pooja.
Absolutely, thank you for having me.